The smartphone slipped from my fingers, clattering against the laminate countertop as Quinn's voice boomed across the diner. "You're stealing from me." 30 breakfast conversations died instantly. The accusation hung in the air, sharp and public, as he pointed first at me, then at the small figure in a faded yellow jacket hunched in the corner booth. I felt the blood drain from my face, replaced by a wave of heat that crept up my neck as every customer turned to stare. The girl, barely 10 years old, curled inward, her thin shoulders creating a protective shell around the untouched egg sandwich I'd just served her. The quarter-filled glass of milk beside it suddenly seemed damning evidence. "I asked you a question, Alicia." Quinn's knuckles whitened against the counter. "Are you paying for her food yourself, or are you stealing from my register?" "My name is Alicia. I'm 27 and a waitress working through night school." This is the story of how I turned a manager's public humiliation into the most satisfying second chance of my life. For 3 years, I'd arrived at Cornerstone Diner at 4:45 a.m., brewing the first pot of coffee while mentally reviewing marketing assignments due that evening. The morning crowd sustained me: teachers who remembered my birthday, construction workers who split plates to save money but tipped generously, elderly couples who saved newspaper clippings about my business classes. 2 weeks earlier, I'd noticed her slip through the door at exactly 7 a.m., a small girl with a yellow jacket hanging loose on her thin frame, backpack clutched against her chest like armor. Without eye contact, she'd slide into the farthest booth and wait, barely visible above the Formica tabletop. "Egg sandwich, please," she'd whisper, voice so soft I had to lean close to hear. When time came to pay, she'd carefully count wrinkled bills and coins, always coming up exactly $1.87 short. I'd discreetly cover the difference from my tips, adding a glass of milk. "Growing bones need calcium," I'd say with a wink. She never responded, but ate every bite, eyes constantly darting to the door. Yesterday, I'd found a folded note under her empty glass. *, "You're the only one who talks to me without being scared. I like the milk. Thank you, E. *. Now Quinn was making her an exhibition, transforming my small kindness into a public spectacle. Behind him, Fiona already had her phone out, recording. The morning host, Roxanne, leaned against the wall, smirking. They'd been waiting for this, for Quinn to finally notice the pattern and make an example of me. "She's just a child," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I cover the difference myself." "Not according to Roxanne," Quinn snapped. "She says you've been comping meals without authorization." The girl abandoned her sandwich, scrambling for her backpack. Before I could reach her, she disappeared through the door, a flash of yellow vanishing down the morning sidewalk. "My office. Now." His cramped back office smelled of cigarettes and discount cologne. A warning notice already lay on his desk. "Sign it," he said, without looking up from his invoices. "Quinn, she counts pennies. Her clothes are more worn each day. She's not our problem." He slid the paper toward me. "Parents should feed their own kids. Sign it or clean out your locker." My hand trembled slightly as I took the pen. The girl's note burned in my apron pocket. I could explain how she arrived alone every day, how her eyes constantly checked the door, how she seemed to be vanishing a little more each morning. Instead, I simply signed. "Don't make me regret keeping you on," Quinn added as I turned to leave. "Plenty would take your spot tomorrow." That night in my studio apartment, I stared at the ceiling as options crystallized. I needed this job, rent was due, student loans loomed, and positions accommodating night classes were scarce. But Quinn's public humiliation had awakened something fierce inside me. Morning arrived with a plan, not just for today, but for something bigger. Phase 1, I would pay for the girl's breakfast myself, keeping it entirely separate from the diner's books. Quinn couldn't object to me serving a legitimate paying customer. But 7 a.m. came and went with no sign of the yellow jacket. By 7:30, I found myself checking the door every few minutes, worry gnawing at my stomach. Had Quinn's theatrics scared her away permanently? At 8:15, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. Conversations died mid-sentence as a gleaming black SUV with tinted windows pulled directly in front of our entrance. Two men in suits emerged first, scanning the area before opening the rear door. A tall man in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit stepped out, his presence commanding attention without effort. Two more suited figures flanked him as he entered. The breakfast crowd fell silent. Forks paused mid-bite, coffee cups suspended in air. Quinn emerged from the back, eyes widening. He smoothed his rumpled shirt, hurrying forward. "Good morning, sir. Welcome to Cornerstone Diner. How can we help you today?" His voice had transformed into something obsequious I'd never heard before. The man's sharp, intelligent eyes swept across the diner, ignoring Quinn completely. "I'm looking for the person who's been helping my daughter," he stated, his deep voice controlled but revealing nothing about his intentions. I froze by the coffee station, carafe in hand. The 4 bodyguards positioned themselves strategically around the diner, professional but unmistakably vigilant. Quinn's practiced smile faltered. "I'm not sure I understand." "My daughter," the man repeated calmly. 10 years old, yellow jacket. "She's been coming here for breakfast." I set down the coffee carafe and stepped forward, heart hammering against my ribs. "That's me," I said quietly. "I've been serving her." The man turned, studying my face for a long moment. His expression shifted from scrutiny to something softer, more vulnerable. "She hasn't eaten breakfast outside our home since her mother died," he said. "You're the first person she's spoken to in 3 years." The diner remained absolutely silent. Even the kitchen sounds had ceased. "I didn't know," I whispered. The man approached, extending his hand. "Jackson Fraser." Several gasps rippled through the diner. Even I recognized the name, tech investor and philanthropist whose face occasionally graced business magazines. "My daughter is Emily," he continued. "After her mother's accident, she developed selective mutism. Therapists, specialists, medications, nothing helped." He reached into his jacket and produced the note I'd found. "Then yesterday, she handed her tutor this. It's the first time she's reached out to anyone in 3 years. I had to find out who you were." Quinn stepped forward, his demeanor completely transformed. "Mr. Fraser, I can assure you our establishment always welcomes your daughter. In fact, I personally instructed Miss Wright to take special care of her." I felt my mouth fall open at the brazen lie. Around us, several regular customers shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances. Jackson's gaze hardened as he turned to Quinn. "Really?" "Because my security team reviewed this establishment before I entered. They've been conducting background checks and surveillance for the past week." Quinn paled visibly. Behind him, Fiona had stopped filming and was slowly backing toward the kitchen. "Where is Emily today?" I asked, concern overriding my awe. "At home with a cold," Jackson answered. "She was upset about missing her breakfast here." He turned back to Quinn, his tone measured but firm. "I don't appreciate being lied to, especially concerning my daughter's well-being." Quinn's face flushed deep red. "There must be some misunderstanding." Jackson cut him off with a raised hand. "There's no misunderstanding. My team has documented everything, including yesterday's performance." He glanced at the gathered customers. "Would anyone here care to refresh this gentleman's memory about how he treated Miss Wright and my daughter yesterday?" Mrs. Novak, a retired teacher who'd been coming to the diner for 15 years, stood up. "He humiliated them both," she said firmly. "Made a spectacle of a child and accused Alicia of stealing when she was just being kind." Others nodded. Mr. Chen, who always ordered wheat toast and black coffee, added, "Called the little girl a charity case, loud enough for everyone to hear." The collective testimony hung in the air. Quinn's face alternated between ashen and flushed as he realized what was happening. "I've recently acquired the building that houses this establishment," Jackson said calmly, turning back to Quinn. "As the new landlord, I'll be reviewing all tenant leases immediately." Quinn's mouth opened and closed like a beached fish. "Mr. Fraser, please, this is all a misunderstanding." Jackson turned to me, ignoring Quinn's sputtering. From his pocket, he removed a business card, offering it to me. "Miss Wright, my daughter could use more people like you in her life. If you're interested in discussing a position with my foundation, or perhaps opening your own establishment, I'd like to speak with you." I stared at the card, vision blurring. "I don't understand." "You showed kindness to Emily when she was invisible to everyone else," Jackson said simply. "I'd like to return that kindness." Behind us, the diner's entrance chimed. A small figure in the yellow jacket slipped inside, followed by an older woman who must have been her caretaker. Emily, no longer anonymous, no longer just the girl, approached me slowly. For the first time, she looked directly into my eyes. "Will you still have egg sandwiches?" she asked in a small but clear voice. I knelt to meet her gaze, tears flowing freely now. "Every single day, if you want them." Emily smiled, a tiny, fragile thing, but unmistakably real. 2 months later, I stood in front of a freshly painted storefront 6 blocks from Cornerstone Diner. The cozy cafe, named Scene and Amp, featured warm lighting, comfortable seating, and a special corner designated for school children. A small sign on the wall read, "No child turned away. All students welcome." I'd insisted on keeping prices affordable. The cafe's business model included a suspended meal program where customers could prepay for food that would go to someone who couldn't afford it. Quinn's attempt to shame me had backfired spectacularly. After Jackson acquired the building, he'd given Quinn a choice: significantly improved employment practices or non-renewal of the lease. Quinn had chosen the latter, selling the diner to a regional chain at a loss. My business degree, previously a distant dream, was now completed with Jackson's foundation's support. The cafe served as both my final project and my future. Emily came every morning before school, her yellow jacket now accompanied by a small apron embroidered with the cafe's logo. She didn't speak much, but helped arrange napkins and wrote the daily specials in her improving handwriting. Sometimes Jackson joined us, sitting quietly with his laptop while Emily worked alongside me. Other times, he sent the car to pick her up afterward, always with a generous tip and a note of thanks. Several former Cornerstone Diner employees now worked for me, including Martin, the elderly line cook who'd brought his secret hash brown recipe. Many regular customers had followed us as well, grateful for the warmer atmosphere and ethical practices. When local news caught wind of the story, reporters requested interviews. I declined most but agreed to one brief statement: I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just refused to let someone make me ashamed of being kind. Last week, I spotted Quinn through the cafe window, standing across the street, watching our busy morning service. Our eyes met briefly before he turned away, shoulders hunched. I felt no satisfaction in his discomfort, only gratitude that his public humiliation had led to this unexpected second chance. Emily tugged at my apron, then pointed to a new customer who had just walked in, a young boy, maybe 12, with worn shoes and careful eyes. Without a word, she grabbed an egg sandwich and glass of milk from the counter and brought it to his table herself. As I watched her small act of kindness, I realized something profound. When we are publicly shamed for our compassion, we have 2 choices: retreat into self-protection or double down on kindness. Emily had taught me to choose the second path, and in doing so had helped me find not just a new career, but a purpose. The boy looked up at Emily with surprise as she set down his breakfast. She didn't say a word, just gave him a tiny nod of understanding before returning to my side. Sometimes, the most powerful revenge isn't about making others fall. It's about rising so high they're forced to look up and see what they've lost. Every morning as I unlock the cafe doors, I silently thank Quinn for the public humiliation that ultimately set me free.